Your John Deere isn't wearing out early by chance, it's wearing out because small warning signs keep getting ignored. That hydraulic whine, slow cold starts, and tiny oil leaks are all early cries for help. Properly maintained John Deere tractors can last 50 years or more. These 10 expert-backed maintenance secrets could save you thousands in repairs and add decades to your tractor's life. Number 10. Match your fuel and filter strategy to the Tier 4 reality. Number 10. And if you own anything built after 2013, this one is non-negotiable. Modern John Deere diesels, anything running final Tier 4 emissions, live or die by fuel cleanliness. These engines run high-pressure common rail injection north of 30,000 psi, with internal clearances finer than a human hair. A single particle of dirt that an old mechanical pump would have shrugged off will score a Tier 4 injector and turn a routine job into a 4-figure repair. Here's the secret most owners miss. Tier 4 engines require fuel filtered to 2 microns, and the genuine John Deere final filter meets that spec. The cheap white box filter from the farm store looks identical, but filters to 10 or 15 microns, and it bolts on fine while quietly letting through particles 5 times too large to protect your injection system. Combine that with never draining the water separator, and you get the most common Tier 4 failure: water and microbial growth destroying the high-pressure pump. So drain the separator bowl every time you fuel up, not on a schedule. Use only the genuine 2-micron final filter. And if the machine sits for weeks, treat the tank with a biocide, because today's diesel carries biodiesel blends that feed microbial growth. That routine costs $60 a year, and a pump and injectors on a Tier 4 Deere runs $4,000 to $6,000. But the next one is about a fluid that 90% of owners are putting in wrong. But the deeper you look, the more interesting it becomes. Number 9. Stop treating Hy-Guard like generic hydraulic oil. Secret number 9 involves the single most important fluid in your tractor, and most owners treat it like an afterthought. On almost every John Deere, one oil reservoir lubricates the transmission, runs the hydraulics, feeds the power steering, and bathes the wet clutches and brakes. That fluid is John Deere Hy-Guard, and it is not generic hydraulic oil. It is a precisely engineered transmission hydraulic fluid with a specific friction modifier package, and that package is the whole game. Here's why it matters. Your wet brakes and clutches rely on that fluid's friction characteristics to grab and release correctly. Pour in a generic universal tractor fluid and you change the coefficient of friction inside those clutch packs. The result is brake chatter, clutch slip, and accelerated wear on parts buried deep in the transmission case that cost a fortune in labor to reach. The wrong friction modifier is a leading cause of premature wet brake and clutch failure on these machines. There's a second layer. Hy-Guard comes in 2 viscosities, standard for normal use, and low viscosity for cold climates that need fast hydraulic response in freezing temperatures. Running standard Hy-Guard in sub-zero weather means your hydraulics move like cold molasses on startup, and that pressure spike on a cold pump is how you blow seals and crack housings. Match the viscosity to your climate, change it on interval, and use genuine fluid or a true equivalent that states it meets the John Deere J20C or J20D specification, not just compatible. But secret number 8 silently destroys final drives, but the next position belongs to a true classic. Number 8. Service the final drives and wheel hubs. Everyone forgets. Here's a secret John Deere buries in the back of the manual. Your final drives and front wheel hubs have their own separate oil, and it needs changing. On most utility and compact tractors, the final drive planetary gears at each rear wheel and the front axle on 4-wheel drive models run in oil baths completely separate from the main transmission sump. That oil takes a savage beating from high load, high heat, and constant gear mesh, and almost nobody ever drains it. Here's what goes wrong. Final drive oil shears down and loses its film strength, and the wheel hub seals eventually weep. As they weep, The level drops and water and grit work their way in. There's no warning light and no gauge, so the owner never checks. Then a planetary gear or bearing lets go, and now you're splitting the final drive housing, one of the most labor-intensive repairs on the machine. A lot of the transmission failures owners report are actually final drive failures from oil that was never serviced. The fix is almost embarrassingly cheap. Pull the level plug on each final drive and the front axle, confirm the oil is up to spec and is not milky or metallic, and change it on the manual's interval, far more often than people do. On four-wheel drive models, the front differential and hubs are separate fills, so do not miss them. Catching a weeping hub seal early is a $10 part. Ignoring it is a final drive teardown. That brings us to secret number 7, the cooling trick that prevents the #1 killer of John Deere diesels. And the next entry might surprise a lot of people. Number 7, protect the cooling stack and the coolant chemistry. Secret number 7 could save your engine outright, because overheating warps heads and cracks blocks. The first failure path is simple. The radiator, oil cooler, and charge air cooler are stacked together up front and packed solid with chaff and dust during field work. From the front, it can look clean while the back face is a felted mat strangling airflow. The temperature climbs and the operator doesn't notice until the gauge spikes, and by then the damage is starting. The second path is coolant chemistry, and AMR owners get this badly wrong. These engines are designed for CoolGuard 2, which protects the cylinder liners from cavitation erosion. On wet liner diesels, the liner vibrates microscopically and forms vapor bubbles that implode against the metal. Without the right additive package, those implosions literally drill pinholes through the liner wall and coolant ends up in your oil. Top off with plain green automotive antifreeze or just water, and you strip that protection out. So blow the cooling stack out from the engine side with compressed air after dusty work, not just a glance from the front. Use only CoolGuard 2 or add the supplemental coolant additive if you run a different extended life coolant. And test it periodically with the strips Deere sells. Replace the coolant on interval. These extended life coolants last years, but they are not lifetime. It costs almost nothing and prevents the most catastrophic engine failure on these machines. But wait until you hear secret number 6. It's a free repair hiding in plain sight. Moving forward, we arrive at another unexpected contender. Number 6. Mind the service bulletins and product improvement programs. Here's secret number 6 that your dealer's service department will never volunteer. John Deere issues a constant stream of technical service bulletins and product improvement programs, PIPs, and many cover repairs at little or no cost to you, but only if you know to ask. A PIP is John Deere quietly acknowledging a design weakness on a specific model and engine. It is not a public recall with letters mailed to your house. It is an internal program your dealer looks up by serial number. These cover real, expensive problems, known weaknesses in certain DPF and emissions components, specific injector batches, transmission update kits, fuel system revisions. There are programs that turn a multi-$1,000 job into a covered repair, and most owners have no idea they exist. The catch is that some have time or hour limits. Once they expire, you pay full price for the exact same fix. So take your full 17-character PIN off the frame to your dealer's service desk and ask them directly to run it for any open PIPs, service advisor updates, or applicable bulletins. Be specific. Are there any product improvement programs open against this serial number? Do it before you authorize any major repair, because the problem you're about to pay for may already be covered. One covered injector or emissions program can save you a whole year of maintenance. But secret number 5 is a schedule John Deere doesn't print prominently, and 90% of owners fall under it. Next on the list is a name you might recognize. Number 5. You're almost certainly a severe service operator. Secret number 5 changes how you read your entire maintenance manual. John Deere's service intervals assume relatively clean, moderate, continuous duty operation. How most people actually use these tractors qualifies as severe service, and that demands shorter intervals than the headline numbers suggest. Here's what pushes you into severe service, and it covers almost everyone. Lots of short runs where the engine never fully reaches temperature to burn off condensation. Heavy loader work that hammers the hydraulics and front axle. Mowing and baling in thick dust. Frequent cold starts. Long idling, which glazes cylinders and dilutes the oil with unburned fuel. If your tractor does loader work, mows in summer dust, and sits cold between jobs, you're a severe duty machine, no matter what the brochure says. In practice, change oil and filter more often than the maximum interval, not at the very edge of it. Service air filters by condition, not the calendar. And never clean a primary filter by banging or blowing it out, because you drive dust through the media. Replace it. And sample your oil. For a few dollars, an analysis lab flags coolant intrusion, fuel dilution, and metal wear long before a failure shows up. But secret number 4 is the diagnostic shift that keeps you ahead of failures instead of blindsided. Now let us move to the next entry on the list. Number 4. Learn to read your own codes. Here's secret number 4, the one many dealers would rather you never learn. Your modern John Deere isn't just a tractor, it's a rolling computer packed with sensors and control modules that constantly monitor everything from engine performance to hydraulic pressure and emissions. When something starts going wrong, the machine usually tells you exactly what the problem is through diagnostic trouble codes. The surprising part is that many owners never bother learning how to read those codes, so every warning light ends with an expensive trip to the dealer just to find out what the tractor was already trying to say. On many John Deere models, you can access stored diagnostic codes directly from the dashboard display without plugging in a scan tool. The operator's manual explains the button sequence needed to enter diagnostic mode, scroll through active and stored codes, and identify which system is reporting a fault. That simple knowledge alone can save hundreds of dollars in unnecessary diagnostic charges. It's especially valuable because the emission system, including the DPF and regeneration system, often provides plenty of warning before a serious failure occurs. A tractor that needs a parked regeneration doesn't suddenly stop working. It usually gives multiple alerts first, giving you time to complete the regeneration and clear the soot before performance is affected. Ignore those warnings and keep working, and eventually the tractor protects itself by reducing engine power or forcing an expensive service regeneration. Spending 15 minutes completing a regeneration is far cheaper than paying for a clogged filter to be professionally cleaned or replaced. For owners who like handling their own maintenance, enthusiast-grade scan tools and the same Service Advisor software used by many independent repair shops can unlock even more information, including live sensor data, system tests, and code clearing. Even if you never buy those tools, learn how to use your tractor's built-in diagnostics and always write down any fault code before clearing it. That single habit can help you identify recurring sensor problems, electrical faults, or emissions issues weeks before they become major breakdowns, giving you the chance to schedule repairs instead of dealing with an expensive surprise in the middle of planting or harvest. And this is where things take a turn. Number 3. Break in a new or rebuilt engine hard. Here's secret number 3, the one that goes against almost everything most owners believe. When you take delivery of a brand new John Deere, or you've just rebuilt the engine, the worst thing you can do is baby it. Most people assume a fresh engine should be treated like fragile glass, with light loads, low RPM, and easy work for the first 100 hours. It sounds like the safe approach, but that gentle treatment can actually shorten the engine's life. The damage doesn't happen overnight, it happens slowly, and by the time you notice excessive oil consumption or weak compression, it's already too late. Here's why. A diesel engine's piston rings must properly seat against the cylinder walls to create a tight seal. That seating process depends on cylinder pressure pushing the rings firmly against the freshly honed cylinder surface. If the engine spends its break-in period under light loads with low cylinder pressure, the cylinder walls can become polished before the rings fully seat, a condition known as glazing. Once that happens, the rings can never form the perfect seal they were designed for. The result is an engine that burns more oil, produces more blow-by, delivers less power, and never performs as efficiently as it should. The only real fix is a complete teardown and rebuild. That's why John Deere's own break-in recommendations, along with advice from experienced diesel engine builders, encourage owners to put the tractor to work during those first 100 hours. Don't abuse it, don't lug the engine, and don't run it at full throttle all day, but give it meaningful, varying loads so proper cylinder pressure can seat the rings correctly. Keep a close eye on the oil level, because a small amount of oil consumption during break-in is completely normal. Then replace the engine oil and filter at the recommended early break-in interval, since the first oil captures tiny metal particles created as new components wear into each other. Get the break-in period right, and that engine can deliver decades of reliable service. Get it wrong by being overly cautious, and you've permanently limited its potential before it ever reaches its first season of work. Number 2. Operate so the emission system can clean itself. Secret number 2 could save you the most expensive non-engine repair on a modern John Deere, the emissions after-treatment system. The diesel particulate filter, or DPF, traps soot and periodically burns it away through a high-temperature process called regeneration. The problem is that many owners unknowingly prevent this process from ever finishing. They believe they're being gentle on the tractor, but in reality, they're slowly choking one of its most expensive systems. Here's the trap. Regeneration needs heat, and heat only comes from running the engine under proper load for long enough to reach operating temperature. If your tractor spends most of its life idling around the yard, pulling light loads, running at low RPM, or being shut off after only a few minutes of work, it never gets the chance to complete a full regeneration cycle. The soot continues to build until the filter becomes overloaded. Eventually, the tractor protects itself by entering a power derate mode, reducing engine performance dramatically, or forcing you to perform a parked regeneration. Ignore it long enough, and you may end up paying for professional DPF cleaning or even a replacement that costs thousands of dollars. Many owners blame the emissions equipment, but in most cases, the real culprit is simply the way the machine is being operated. When your tractor requests a regeneration, let it complete the cycle instead of shutting the engine off halfway through. Interrupting the process only delays the inevitable and can even allow extra fuel to contaminate the engine oil. Make it a habit to work the tractor under a meaningful load on a regular basis so the exhaust reaches the temperatures needed to burn away soot naturally. Keep your diesel exhaust fluid fresh and topped off, because contaminated or expired DEF can crystallize inside the SCR system and create another expensive repair. Even if your daily work only involves light chores, schedule an occasional longer job, or take the tractor out for a sustained run at operating temperature. Giving the emission system the heat it was designed for is one of the easiest ways to avoid massive repair bills. Respect the system instead of fighting it, because the number one secret ties every one of these maintenance habits together. The next entry shows just how far this idea can go. Number 1. Operate by hours, not by feel, and log everything. Here's the number 1 secret, the mindset shift that separates John Deeres that run 50 years from those that die young. Operate by the hour meter, not the calendar, and not by feel. Every interval that matters, oil, hydraulic fluid, filters, final drives, coolant, is measured in engine hours. The owners whose machines last track those hours religiously and act on them. The ones whose machines fail change the oil when it looks dirty and service the hydraulics when something starts acting up. Here is the engineer's mindset behind it. A John Deere is built to be a 50,000-hour machine if every system is serviced on schedule, because each fluid and filter is rated to protect its parts for a specific number of hours and no longer. Miss those windows and you're not saving money. You're spending the machine's lifespan to avoid a small bill today. A few $100s a year in on-time fluids and filters versus a transmission, a final drive, or an engine worth more than the tractor. Preventive maintenance isn't an expense here. It's the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy. So build the habit. Keep a simple logbook, a notebook in the cab, or a note on your phone, and record the hour reading every time you service anything. Date, hours, what you did, which fluid and filter part number, and anything you noticed. That log tells you exactly when the next service is due, so nothing slips, catches creeping problems like climbing oil consumption or a hub that needs topping off too often. And when you sell, a complete service history commands a real premium over an identical machine with no records. Think like the engineer who designed it, a precision machine that rewards discipline and punishes neglect, and the hour meter is the only honest measure of what it needs. Enjoyed this explanation? Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned.